Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. A great show for entrepreneurs today. A really interesting show. You know, we love companies that give back to the community. We talk about it all the time, to become part of your local community, to give back to charity, to insert yourself in a way as an entrepreneur, a business owner that makes sense so that you can take what you've been able to do in your business and share some of your fortune with others and make the world a much better place. And when we had Mr. Will Black's company come across our desk, we were very, very interested. Will is the chief giving officer at Sharing the Credit. And when we saw what they're doing, it's very interesting because they put together a program that not only helps to save businesses money, but you also get to support your local favorite charity. Or that doesn't even need to be local. It can be just your favorite charity. So it's so interesting what he and his partners have done. I mean, they've taken an interesting idea and turned it into a remarkable platform to give back to the community. So, Will, I wanted to welcome you to the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Andy, thank you for having me. I love the show. I love some of the, getting a chance to see the insights that you probe in. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to tell people how they can automate their philanthropy.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Automating philanthropy. I mean, it's not only great for the business, but it's also great for the charities. And say, automate your philanthropy 3 times really fast. That's a tongue twister. So you start off
it is.
Me right, Will. All right, let's get started because we have so many questions. We have questions from the audience as well. Let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet like we always do. Tell us about what you're doing as the chief giving officer of the, Sharing the Credit. And then we're going to get into it.
Yeah. Well, first thing I like to tell people is, let me tell you something very inspiring, right? And that is this. 80% of all funding to charity in the United States, it doesn't come from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It doesn't come from Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, although she's trying to give people a run for the money, right? Billion at a time. No, it comes from the businesses right down Main Street. It comes from all the people that you talk to, every one of these podcasts. It comes from established businesses. It comes from brand new startup businesses. There's something in us and we like to give, right? There's a reason Christmas wins. Christmas for the win, right? Yeah. We like to give. And at the end of the day, here's what we do. We say, listen, if you're in business, you take plastic as a form of payment, right? Your customers pay you with debit cards and credit cards. If you're not taking plastic, get on that train, get on the plastic train. Well, if you take plastic, right? And I say Visa, MasterCard, I don't mean just those 2 cards. I mean the system, right? The whole plastic thing. But if you take plastic, they pay, your clientele pays you in debit cards and credit cards. The Visa, MasterCard system charges your business. Duh. But they don't charge you a fee. They charge you a collection of fees. And at the end of the month, they take that pound of flesh. That part everybody knows. That's the boring part. People are reaching for their espresso right now. Right? No, here's what you don't know. Every time somebody comes in and swipes that card, one of those fees that come out, it doesn't go to Visa, it doesn't go to MasterCard. It goes back into the system, normally to a bank, not your bank, right? Just a bank back into the system. But it's legally allowed, with the IRS's blessing, mind you, to go to a 501, an IRS Approved Nonprofit, a charity. So whose charity? My charity, Andy's charity, Visa, MasterCard? No, the business's charity. They're the one, you built the business. It's the thing that you love. So if you want to help puppies, if you want to keep veterans from committing suicide, if you want to feed the homeless, if you want to work in picking up litter or English as a second language, for people's, I'm inspired every day by the charities we talk to.
Yeah, it's interesting. The way you do this is very interesting, is because you provide your customers, your clients, the businesses that swipe the cards with very, very, competitive, highly competitive credit card services through your company, through the merchant services company, which diverts the fees they would have to pay to their bank into and through your foundation to the charity. So what this really means is an ongoing, reliable, sustainable sort of residual income for the charities that you want to support. I mean, it's a remarkably simple yet a very effective and powerful way to change the world. So I love that so much. Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about how the merchant services, your company, the merchant service, Meridian Merchant Services, participates in the process.
Well, per usual, you always get right to the pith. Andy, thank you for asking. It's like I set that up for you. I'll send you an extra check or something. You hit it right on the nail. It's got to be a win for the business, right? I mean, let's admit it. It is not mercenary to say a business is in business for themselves not to donate then to charity. They often donate to charity, right? But it can't come at damage. You've got to build it in there. I'll tell you, the third business we ever spoke to was a car dealership that does $1 million a month in plastic. So keep them in your thoughts and prayers, buddy. Okay. They struggle to get along, knowing that's their small form of payment. And we've got a couple dozen, car dealerships now. They give heavily to their charity, right? In their communities, that's one of the first things, when you are doing a budget, when you're getting jerseys for your little league, they always go to the car dealership. And they said, hey, thanks for coming out. Please tell us how we can help our charity. And we said, hey, we got to get a couple of ground rules, right? One, if this costs your charity anything, because it's free to the charity, and two, if you as a business, because it's about you, if you had to pay extra in order to do this, right? If you had to pay a premium in order to enact it, it would be cheaper to say, no, thank you, and keep writing your charity a check. And these guys were like, well, God bless you. We thought you wanted a check at the end of this conversation. Everybody wants a check from us. The first job, whenever we're talking to somebody, is to save that business money, to make it a win for them. If we can make it a win for them, then it's an easy decision to say, and now let's give your charity, right? So that particular organization, now mind you, they do $1 million a month in plastic. We showed them a $30,000 a year savings. And their exact statement was, well, the big GM. He was, playing it real close to the vest, a little stoic, just complete poker face. And he said, wow, that's a car. $30,000, that's a whole car. And we said, sir, it's a car a year. It's a car every year, right? It was a huge win for them. They saved $30,000. They give about $125,000 a year to their charity that had always gone back into the system. So it's got to be a win for everybody. It's already, people say, oh, that's the definition of a win-win, right? No, it's a three-way win. Business saves money, or they're not going to make the change, right? Charity gets the ongoing funding. I tell you what gets lost in this equation. The charity being guaranteed long-term sustainable funding stays in their community. The community gets the third win. We talk to so many. I'll tell you something real quick. We tell our new people coming in, we've got a fun atmosphere, right? Nobody feels bad doing what we do. If we sign up a charity, if a business comes on board, you don't feel bad doing what we do, right? It is only a win. But we've got a fast-paced atmosphere. And sometimes it's fun, but fast, of course, because you never know the number of charities we talk to that are 30 days away from closing, 60 days, 90 days away from closing, or laying off 50, 80% of their people. I need those guys, boots on the ground, feeding people, saving people's lives, counseling, doing all the stuff that My heart's too tender, Andy. Well, I can't I can't take that kind of drama all day long. These guys go out and fight. They're in their jobs 90 hours a week. Our communities need those charities to get that funding all day long.
Yeah.
So, but don't be confused. Just because, I tell the story about $1 million a month car dealership, brand new startups. We've got people coming in, haven't even opened a business yet. We save them the money before they get taken to the cleaners in the first place. And then they've been giving the entire time they've been open. Those are my favorites. I love them.
Yeah, it's so great. Well, I mean, who wouldn't like to support their local charity or their favorite charity? It doesn't have to be local, with really zero out of pocket or bottom line expenses, and save money in operating costs at the same time. I mean, like you said, it's a win-win-win and a win for the community as well. Let's talk about it, because there's a lot of nonprofits. Like you said, I mean, a lot of them are working, month to month. They have 90 days of funding available. I mean, it's a tough business, like any business these days.
Mm-hmm.
And who would not like to receive what I call this automatic, passive, residual, and sustainable, really unrestricted funding? So let's talk about it.
Go ahead.
Do the nonprofits reach out to you and they say, hey, Will, we want in, can you connect us with a business? Or do the businesses reach out to you and say, hey, we want to use your platform, we want to connect to our charity? Or both of those transactional opportunities work?
A, B, and mostly C.
Okay.
We talk to businesses, as you can imagine, all day long. Without the business, right, nothing happens. There's no water flowing, if you will. We reach out to charities all day long, and for good reason. At the end of the day, we've given away millions of dollars now. That, by the way, that's a funny, weird thing to say and hear come out of your own mouth and have it be true. To say, you've given away millions of dollars that formerly were just going back into the system. But I love it. I do love it. But no, we often go after and we talk to these charities. We meet them through a number of different ways. But the first thing we've got to do is show them there is funding out there, long-term funding for them, and they're not going to have to lay out $1,000, $5,000, $20,000. It's not that kind of scenario, right? We can show them. We say, steal the idea from us. We yell it for free from the rooftops all day long, and we'll do it for you. We'll manage it, but you can absolutely do it, and we'll show you how to do it. But there's a greater need that we even miss on that. Two things. One, the charity has its own fan base, right? People that are already donating to them. And when the only reason that $1 million a month car dealership, right, opened their door and was talking to Will, is because that charity introduced me and basically walked me in the front door. They're already giving to that charity, right? They believe in the charity. They know the charity. The charity has the halo. Well, the charity lets me borrow their halo. And I then talk into their business. And so the business says, please tell me how we can do this. And they think they're going to have to lay out money. No, you're doing it now. You build the business, right? Let's fine tune it. Let's see if we can save you money. And if we can, no pressure, if we can, please consider making the no-kill shelter, the soup kitchen, Habitat for Humanity, Operation Underground Railroad, which saves children from trafficking. I can never be involved in that group. I want to donate to them, but I don't have, I can't take that kind of drama. We say, but you can give to them. And so the charity, we talk to the charities and we say, you've already got your base. We just need to help you convert some. I'll tell you a great story. We've got a little group, not their real name. They jokingly call themselves the local nonprofit. And they say that because they say, if you drive 25, 30 miles in any direction, nobody's ever heard of us, Andy. And that's the definition of local, right? Not another one in the state, not another one anywhere. but a worthwhile group. And not a big operation. They just wanted $80,000 a year. That was their stretch goal, was if we could get 80, right? Get a 60, 65, but if we could get 80, it would be wine and roses, everything's paid. And but they said, we're not a major metropolitan area. I'm like, you don't have to be in Atlanta or Philadelphia to make this work. And they said, we don't have a lot of businesses. And we always kind of giggle at this. We want to say, do you really think everybody that gives to you won the lottery? There's just not that many lottery winners, right? No, they own a business or they work at a business, right? That's 90% of the population, 98%, right? You own a business or work. But they did what we told them to do. We helped them even automate a lot of it. And they ended up having a very finite number, right? 20 businesses converted. Now, those 20 businesses, if you do take all their plastic sales in 1 month and duct tape them together, they do between, again, 20 businesses, they do $2 million in sales a month. Sounds like a lot. It's really not. But they donate, Andy, listen, they donate $11,000 a month after month, year after year for 5 years running now. Commiserate with me on one point. Hold my hand for just a second. They've never referred another company. They get $120,000 a year. They're too ethical, if there is such a thing. I don't think you can be too ethical. But since they only wanted 80, they got 120. I've never had a group that said, we can't use any more money. We're good. But for 5 years running, they sit there and they get the money and they've expanded operations a little bit. And I said, how about $200,000 a year? But they're like, we're good to go. But yeah, no, it's the charity. The charity has the reach out, right? They've got the fan base, even if they're new. And let me tell you, the sexiest thing you can tell somebody if you're a charity and you need some money, Andy, put away your checkbook. Don't pull out your debit card or credit card. You have a business, consider letting your business redirect this fee that you pay right now.
Yeah,
nothing out of pocket, right? What do you want to do? You want to give back into the banking system, or you want to help puppies? Are you one of the good guys, Andy, or are you a dirty rat pig?
That's funny.
I think you're one of the good guys. That's what I think. I think you're one of the good guys. So,
yeah, it's really interesting, Will, of course, and the stories that you tell. I mean, you've got so many people that love what you do at sharing the credit. The testimonials are remarkable, of course, and it's just a great idea. Now, I'm a businessman. There's a lot of businessmen out there, and they have their existing legacy model of, however they take the cards and they swipe the cards, or they have the digital readouts on the cards, or they take the cards online, or they take it at their place of business. And one question might come to mind is, I love what I'm hearing, but I don't want the hassle. I don't know what the new process is going to be. I don't want the machinery, and I don't want the change. And people don't like change, right? So share how easy you make it for the businesses to make this a seamless opportunity.
Sure. Well, 9 times out of 10, besides a little bit of paperwork, right? There's just not that much to do. Any work is work, right? And there's a hump to get over, but it's a little hump. Most of the time, if they have one of the black box terminals right there on the counter, it can be reprogrammed. If they want, we'll have a brand new one sent right out to them, pre-programmed. They unplug it, they plug it back in. If they've got a point of sale system, the number one blocking factor is, it only works with certain processors, right? It only works with this group. We're not beholden to a processor because I used to do this for the banking system. I work with every major processor in the nation. I'll give you a good example. We had a company, and they bought another company, and they said, but this one comes with its point of sale system, and it only works with Global East. and they felt that sounded real esoteric, like, ancient Sanskrit to us. And we know that every day. And they said, can you work with that? That you can hear it. They're a little afraid. And we had to tell them, you have 18 contracts on Global East right now. You're good to go. You have 4 on payment tag. You have several all around the board. It's just really not that hard. It's really not that hard a thing. The real good thing is again, it comes back to their charity. If Andy loves Habitat for Humanity, right? And we've got a couple of those. If Andy loves his Habitat for Humanity because he knows it's putting a roof over somebody's head, right? You didn't necessarily go through that trauma, but you've seen it. We never know why one charity affects your heart, right? Why do you like blue or why do you like red? There's no rational explanation, but that's what moves Andy. And so when the guy at Habitat that he knows says, every time somebody comes in and swipes a card at your business, you paying a fee into the system, you could give it to help us keep putting these roofs over people's heads. And that's when Andy says, I'm sorry, would you repeat that? I need to hear that again. What is that going to cost me? No, you're not going to do it if they can't save you money. Would you like me to introduce you to a funding specialist at Sharing the Credit? Absolutely. And that's how we do it. So at that point, we just make a business case, right? That's what it is. I'll give you an example of this one guy. He told us that point of sale system cost me $10,000. I'm not pulling that out. Right. And they will not let me change the merchant account. Now, anytime somebody says that, I say they won't let you change the merchant account. If you're on a date and they lock the door, are you on a date? Right? Are you really on a date? What about a 3-year locked door date? That is not a date, right? But we said, hey, Andy, pretend your brother-in-law set this up for you and you're never going to make the switch. Let's just run your numbers and at least you'll know where you are. Well, he was overpaying $6,000 a year. So our next question was how many years have you had that? And he said, 4. I've overpaid $24,000. That $10,000 system has cost me $34,000 in 4 years. I lied. I am taking it out. I might rip it out by hand. And we said, don't do that. Let's get you something, that'll fit you in place. But you gotta make a business case. You got to make it good for them.
Yeah, you do such a good job. The testimonials are remarkable. Love having you on the show today. I'm thinking about charities now. I'm thinking about the nonprofits. I'm thinking about they sell things. They have gift shops and they sell things online. And sometimes they actually own businesses, whether it's they're selling dog treats that are being made by people with special needs, or they have a cafe that, is supporting money for the charity. Do they use your system, which then
can they give back to themselves?
And give back to themselves. Let's talk about that.
All day long. This was the first time we did a restore, right, for Habitat for Humanity. Because the restore is just their retail arm of that local Habitat, right? And they have donated things. You can come in there and buy them. I have a coral chandelier. That's a $600 chandelier. Cost me $100 in a restore. I love it. I get so many comments on it. I love my restore. They sell things all day long, and the trick is that going to muddy the water? The IRS does not like a charity somehow donating back to itself. They do not think outside the box. They want simple. And we had to research this, and the IRS flat out said to it, I think the actual agent said when we were there with a tax attorney, he said, we don't care. And I said, I need a little more than that. That's not official sounding, right? He said, no. As soon as somebody goes into a charity and swipes a card, if you go into a no-kill shelter and you're having spay or neutering, right, and that's technically a service offered by them, or an adoption fee of a dog, right, for example, it goes through the whole Visa MasterCard process, and that is its own taxable, right? That's its vetting system for the IRS. And when it goes all the way through you, if you then take these monies and give it from a swipe at a restore, and you're going to give it to that the parent habitat that owns it, they consider that a separate legal transaction. And so it was wash and clean, and we're like, that is our favorite answer of all time. Wow. And he said, don't confuse it with money laundering. I'm not saying you're laundering it, but it does wash it clean. You're not muddying the waters. It's its own separate legal transaction. So when your foundation then turns around and gives it back to Habitat, you are squeaky clean, and the IRS doesn't have a hand in it at that point. We don't care.
Yeah, that's so interesting, Will, because you mentioned it. That's a great way to go. And of course, nonprofits, most of them, if they're developed, are starting to or have a fully developed board. And on the board, they have oftentimes business people within the local community. And
all day long. Yeah.
Right. And those business people on the board of directors own businesses, many of them. So this also is a great way maybe for a charity during a board meeting to say to their board members, hey, you know, check out what Sharing the Credit's doing. Reach out to Will Black. If you have some credit card processing, you can perhaps take a look and see if he can save you or their team can save you some money. And at the same time, give back to the nonprofit that you're a board member of. So it's a great sort of idea.
That's the low-hanging fruit. As a matter of fact, most of the groups that we deal with, the first thing they do is they go through that board, right? Like a cold through a kindergarten class, right? Everybody gets it real quick. And if they can, unless there's some huge blocking factor, they quickly convert, and it gives them a little bit of a bandwagon also, right? Because then as they're going out and talking to their donors, and they're the ones that they know by name first, hey, Andy, you give to us, God bless you. You know, you have a business, and then they start the process. They already get to say, we've already converted, you know, our first 6 businesses of just our board members. We loved it so much. But let me break your heart just a second. Okay, let me sign up for that, right? We were working with a nonprofit, and they were having trouble making payroll. And this is something that the community desperately needed in their community. This group did not need to go away. And they were having trouble making payroll, and they got a grant that came in for $10,000. An all-women organization, and they said this about themselves. They said, it looked like a frat house on Super Bowl Sunday. They said we were high-fiving and chest bumping, and said, we're non-drinkers. If we had had beer, we would have been spraying each other with beer foam, you know, throwing Cheetos at each other. We were happy women. And then one of them started openly sobbing because she read it, and it was $10,000 for windows. Which meant it could only be spent on windows. It could be prosecuted if they spent it on anything other than windows. The number one blocking factor nowadays, and I'm not decrying grants. I work with a grant team that I often bring in, and they're the other side of the coin for me, right? This is a good team. I'll introduce you to her. She and her team, they do phenomenal grant stuff, right? They come in and clean up hot messes and help people get long-term funding just like me. And we do a lot of hand-in-hand stuff. But the number one blocking factor for grants is operating costs. We don't want to pay your team. We don't want to pay for electricity. And the joke with these women, once they compose themselves, is they're like, well, come winter, when we're in parkas and mittens with our hands around a candle, we're going to want those really nice windows, right? And get as much natural light, and maybe double pane to hold the heat in, because we're not going to have any light or heat. We're going to have to use that money just for our staff, and they're not going to want to stay here because they're freezing to death. But actually, luckily, we got to get them in some money. And it's funny, it's because they got a $4,000 check from us. They had already been getting a little. They got a $4,000 check from us. Andy, they panicked. And they called us up and said, what are we allowed to spend this on? Because they're used to grants. And we said, we don't care. And then we said, I'm sorry, that sounded bad. Let me unpack that. We are not on your board. We have no say what happens with that money, right? It's the same as a cash donation. It's unrestricted funds. Put it in your operating account. Have your team decide what programs you want to put it in via Condio.
That's awesome, Will. I mean, you really put together a complete package for charities and for businesses. I mean, it's remarkable what you've done. It's resonating for so many companies. The testimonials are remarkable. Before I let you go, and again, thanks for cutting out a certain amount of time for me today on the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Always,
Let's
Randy.
ask this, because we have entrepreneurs watching the show. Maybe they're younger. Maybe they're hitting a roadblock. Maybe they're hitting a wall. Maybe they're freezing in the frame a little bit. What type of advice can you give to the younger entrepreneurs watching the show about what it takes to get through a tough time as an entrepreneur?
Find a mentor, right? And don't be intimidated. One, they can say no, right? If I want to talk to Andy, what do you know? Walk me through this. Tell me. When we're younger, we think the mentors don't want to share. People love to share, right? And a mentor will talk to you. And that doesn't mean you can call them 3 times a day for a half hour time, right? But you can follow up weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, and you'd be amazed at what you get out of it. And one of my mentors said to me, he said, I want you to say yes to everything. I mean, it's kind of like the movie Yes Man, right? Jim Carrey. He said, I want you to say yes to everything. It doesn't mean you're going to marry every person that walks down the road. It doesn't mean that you're going to get in a permanent partnership with everybody you talk to for 30 days. I want you to say yes to everything. He said, we close ourselves off so much. I did that. And I just answered yes, yes, yes. I tell you, it was a week and a half. It was a week and a half. And I got more deals and more insights and more business relationships that started bringing stuff into me, because we cherry pick because we're idiots. People are dumber, a lot dumber than we think we are on some things. No, that's no good. That's no good. And I just said yes to it, and I said yes to everything. And then I did it for 3 months, and it was I had a 10x month because of that. I had a 10 times month about 3 months later. I just said yes to everything. Does not mean I got in bed or signed equity away with everybody. I just said yes. My mentor had walked me down that path. He said, doesn't mean you're committing your life away. Just say yes to the phone call. Yes to the talk. Talk to them.
Wow. It's great advice. I mean, you don't hear that kind of advice. Just say yes. I mean,
we're scared, right? And when we're younger, we're especially scared. You and I, we got a little more water under the bridge, or some gray, right? And so, we now know we don't have to know everything. You don't have to know everything, but you sometimes you just gotta throw your hat over the fence. And that older, it was a wealthy businessman, but he said, I want you to say yes to everything for a few weeks. And it blew up. It blew up.
Wow. Great advice. Great advice, Will, for the people watching the show. Take that advice at heart. Start saying yes more often. I mean, Will, you're a best-selling author. Of course, you're the chief giving officer of the credit, of sharing the credit. And I'm giving you all the credit for what you've done for all the charities.
I like to give.
Your help, and I love it so much. And I'm going to bring you back on the show. I love your way, your attitude, your energy, the way you explain things so easily for the people watching the show. I want to thank you so much for coming on the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Thank you, Andy.